Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Paige Smith and I am a student majoring in Communication and Media at Clarkson University. Today we are hosting a conversation with Pat Musante, the director of Potsdam Public Library. Joining her is Carol Halliday, Library Board Fiscal Officer, Chip Morris, a Library Board member, and Donna Seymour from the St. Lawrence County branch of the American Association of University Women. Welcome. Donna, will you get us started?
Thank you, Paige. Well, welcome to everybody to this edition of North Country Matters. We're going to be talking about the Potsdam Public Library. You've got a referendum coming up for your budget, plus you are doing a ton of great things in the community, and so we want a chance to talk about all of those things. Pat, prior to 2006, the library was funded through the village budget, along with small stipends from the county and the town budgets. To create a more stable income, the library proposed creating a special taxing district, which reflected better the public, the broader physical public that you actually served than just the village or the town confines. And that was approved by local voters. In retrospect, given what happened to the economy 2 years later in 2008, you couldn't have timed your creation of a taxing district better, because it's given you fiscal stability that so many of your compatriot librarians have not had in these small local libraries. So thank you very much for your leadership in that area, and the fact that you are such a great reader with a crystal ball. So, so for the past 8 years, the library has raised about $465,000 in taxes each year. So you've got a referendum coming up that's going to increase that to $505,000, which is another $40,000. Potsdam residents will pay about 97 cents per thousand of assessed property value, which is up just from 89 cents that were paid last year. So, Chip, what will the public get for that 8 cents per thousand? How will the extra 40,000 help to stabilize the operations at the library, and what are the benefits of this modest increase?
Sure, and I believe it really is a very modest increase for all the services that the public gets for it. If we think about it, for a $50,000 house, it's about $4 a year, or a little less than about a penny a day increase over what's currently being charged. So we have a remarkable number of services, and really the increase will help us continue to have all the services that are in place now, whether it's the traditional library in terms of being able to go in and pick up books that you actually hold in your hand and read, or whether it's all the electronic books, whether it's literacy training, and that literacy training could be both for English as a second language, or to help improve people for whom English is a primary language. Over the years, we've had people and staff who have helped with tax preparation. And the biggest, and we'll talk a lot about it later, will be the Potsdam Computer Center. It's been a remarkable addition to the campus. I'm sorry, to the library, but also to the community.
Your day job is leaking through a little bit there.
I do work at one of the colleges, but it's just been a great addition to the community, both from a business perspective, where businesses have been able to gain training and knowledge that they didn't have, as well as individuals.
That's right. So, Pat, tell us a little bit about when the vote's going to take place, what the hours are, and who's eligible, and where all of that will be taking place, if you would, please.
All right, June 11th, this June, from noon until 8 o'clock, and it will be in the first floor of the Civic Center, or the basement. That's really what it is. And one of the
ground floor.
Yeah, right. But one of the reasons we chose that is because we do have elevators, but they break down sometimes, and we want to make sure we have handicapped access. We have a ramp there.
That's right. That goes right down there.
Right by the Friends of the Library. Yeah.
Right, and so many people know where that space is because they go in every 2 weeks for the Friends of the Library. So that's great. Now, who's eligible to vote?
You have to be 18 years old. You have to have been a resident for 30
days, yes.
And you have to be a United States citizen.
Okay, and where do you have to be a resident of? The taxing district?
The school.
The school district. Okay.
Public Potsdam Central School District.
So that's very easy. People will know with no problem where that is. Now, Carol, you are, how long have you been on the board?
I've been on the board a little more than 2 years.
Oh, okay. So you're the new financial officer. And you're
Taking over from my predecessor.
That's right. And I understand you were the financial officer for 8 years, Chip, so you probably know that
Didn't
system
seem that long.
Didn't seem that long.
You know, I'll tell you, there's still a lot of hidden stuff in there that I haven't.
I agree.
So it's good to have a wingman. Is that correct?
To say the least.
Or
yes.
someone to blame.
Still, yes.
Say the least.
Can you give us a general picture of what the library budget encompasses in terms of kind of the major items in your budget, what that looks like?
Sure, Donna. Focus, we are a library. The focus is on our collection, first of all. That's both paper, traditional reading materials, fiction, nonfiction magazines, kids, young adults, and obviously all of us relatively adult people. And that's key. And Pat and her team makes a terrific use of the money that we have in terms of our collection. It is remarkable. Our turnover of items is probably the highest, I would think, in the North Country system. So it's very, very targeted for the audience that we have in our community.
Right. You're serving. You keep track of who you serve and
very
really
much
target
so.
that population with how you build the collection and enhance it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have a pretty fixed overhead. We don't do much in the way of enhancing that. There are repairs, and we have to keep it clean. We have to pay the utilities. But that's fairly fixed. It really isn't something that we have to invest a great deal of money or changeable money. It's pretty much what it takes just to keep that building going.
Sure.
We have, as Chip mentioned, the Potsdam Public Computing Center, which is new as of the last 3 years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, I think. It's an important piece of it, but that takes a certain amount to keep going.
Sure.
We have our trainers down there and our technology that needs to be maintained. And then I would have to just say we have our remarkable staff who, I mean, nobody ever built a fortune working for library.
It's a labor of love.
It's a labor of love, and Pat and her team.
And it's a labor of community love as well.
Well, we hope that that's always the case, absolutely. Pat and her team have enormous stability. Our turnover is practically not anything in terms of our personnel. And the years that these folks have vested in Potsdam Public Library is priceless. There is no way we could replace the kind of knowledge as individuals that these very few people have. I mean, the productivity is astounding.
You know, I saw a picture on Facebook this morning, and it was a picture of a library, and it said that Google can answer or send you 10,000 responses when you ask a question, but a librarian will give you the right one.
That is so true.
And that's particularly true when you have somebody who's very familiar with the collection and who is so tuned into what the needs of the community are. So thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Chip, one of the long-range plans that the library has is to do some work on the physical building. Can you tell us what's needed and what the plans that the board has to perhaps meet those needs?
Sure. I think we're very lucky. As Carol started to talk about, our building really is in pretty good shape. I think there's ways that we can always make it look nicer, but that has not been a particularly high priority for us. It would really be the collection and the services offered through there. But we have a very strong working relationship with the village. It's very collaborative. And when projects come up, such as the new front steps, we have found ways to be able to fund that through our funds, through theirs, and through the use of very important grants.
You know, speaking of the steps, given the kind of winter that we've had, and apparently we are still having,
we are eventually
we are still having,
that way.
Those steps have been a godsend because that was always a little dicey
Precarious.
going up those steps in the bad weather. So and those steps have been so beautiful and so beautifully easy to keep as well in difficult weather like we've had this year. So
It worked out very well.
somebody from another board called me and said, how do you do all the things you do with your small budget, comparatively small compared to other libraries our size? And I said, well, we don't own our building. So that's one of the things I like. That is an expense, to own your own building. You've got to maintain everything yourself. This way we kind of share it. I love being in the building that we are. We're right in the middle of everything. We have the neighborhood center there, the planning and development. We're in the middle, and we brought the literacy office there that was defunct for 10 years. We got a grant and brought adult literacy there. I love being in that building in the middle of everywhere, and it's cheaper. In the long run, it's cheaper.
And you know, Potsdam is a very walkable community. There are many neighborhoods that people live in that it's just a short walk downtown, and you've got all the services right there around that block. It's very wonderful. I mean, if you've got to stop and pay your water bill, you can drop off a book or pick one up, or drop into the museum.
Go see the museum.
Exactly.
The rescue squad, if you're part of that. It's
so, Pat, let's talk a little bit about. You mentioned before. You talked about the North Country Library System and how you are you're probably the highest circulation of any of all the libraries in that system, and that includes the city of Watertown, which is quite a large community, but still.
Oswego is the
Oswego,
36,000.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how much gets checked out of the library every month, and how many people go through your doors or access your collection in one fashion or another.
We figured out, coming through our doors, probably about an average of 500 people a day. Well, during the week. The weekends are a little bit less, but they're busy. We're open less, or it would be just as busy. I think that's what the problem is. But and to say like who comes through what age group is going to be awfully difficult. That would be.
Well, it's every age group.
You serve
every
everybody.
age group.
Right.
We really do. We've got the mature members of the community who come in the morning, read the papers, take out some books, look, chat. We're not a kind of a library where where the director's going to come down and slap you on the knuckles. It's very much a community-oriented place. And then after school, we've got the kids of all ages. Weekends, we have parents, and a lot of fathers coming in now with their kids and with their young kids, which is great to see. So,
one of the interesting things that has happened since the referendum is we have had such an increase of boys and men. It used to be so much mom bringing the kids there, mom picking up the books, or kind of a girly thing. But I would say in the last 2 years, there are more males and boys than females.
Wow.
And whether it has to do with all the computers or whether it's a place they see each other.
Well, I'm going to suggest that fundamentally the staff have made it a place that people feel welcomed and want to be at. And so they have a thought, they're going to do something, they take the kids. That's part of being in the village.
Right.
And it has so much to do with what you said, because we are right there.
Yes.
You're going around, and there's, you make all your stops. The co-op is there across the street. You've got Market Street out there, easy,
So
stop
if you're
for
out
lunch.
doing your errands, the
Absolutely.
library just goes right onto that list.
Absolutely, it
That's
does,
great.
and it's an important
That's
location
great.
for us, I think.
Now,
it has been.
And it also is something that tells you that that there's an active family life in our community, and that people are really taking advantage of those kinds of resources. Maybe now more than ever with the downturn in the economy, because a library makes such a great use of community funds in the way that not everybody has to have that same set of resources in their own home or can't afford to have it anymore.
Absolutely.
So they've got it. They've got it. Pat, one of the things that we know in the last few years has been the increase in digital media of all kinds, whether it's people with smartphones or tablets or e-readers or anything like that. And your library has really stayed right up on the front of that, haven't you? And you've really been able to make sure that you had a good digital collection. As people's reading media changes, you've been able to stay ahead of that curve, haven't you?
We started a long time ago, a couple years ago, just getting into it, and it's growing and growing, and we're trying to find now the best digital media. I like simultaneous access. I love when you don't have to wait for your book. You can go there and get it right away. The 30 of us can take it out at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at the impact this is going to have on interlibrary loan.
You won't need it anymore.
The physical books are, now we never want to say they're going to be a single thing of the past. They're always going to be part of our
Right.
lives. I pray anyway. But,
Yes.
but Pat and her folks have done such a job in building our electronic access to audio, to video, to hundreds of books, thousands of books that you can get electronically. So.
Well, and you know, one of the really nice things about that too is that it means that somebody can borrow a piece of digital media, and you don't necessarily have to have the doors open to do that or have a staff member. That a lot of that can be done at 2 o'clock in the morning if somebody's looking
sure
for
can.
something to read, right?
I'm going to suggest that that's what makes us such a great value for taxpayers. They can utilize our services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether we're open in a physical sense or not.
That's right.
You know, so it's a unique opportunity.
Now, of course, that we still don't need people to manage all
Oh.
that stuff, so we can't get rid of
no.
staff.
No,
can we?
no,
But-
no, no.
but
And we
really
can't get rid
and
of that knowledge. That's
No,
really
no, that's it.
the knowledge base is
But
enormous.
to have access to that 24/7, that opens your doors in a way that you couldn't have
does.
imagined 10 years ago, I'm sure, in terms of being able to serve patrons.
I'm still after the system we need a better way to measure this, because I know the electronic patron, we have to really know what they're doing, how much they're accessing. So when people say, well, boy, your circulation and your attendance has gone down a little, but you have to look at what we're doing, the electronic patron is
right.
doing.
In order,
You know,
those numbers have to be aggregated in a different way
Right,
than you're
that's
able to
right,
do
exactly
now.
right.
right, exactly.
So in fact, our circulation has really increased and continues to increase.
Right.
Because
right.
of the
And
electronic access.
Yes, and without having to add more than the 65 hours that you're already physically open in terms of letting
Right.
people come through the door. You know, one of the things that has the economic downturn has really affected is the public school systems and their ability to have full-time, fully qualified library staff in the building. Sometimes they're sharing people between buildings. I know they have trouble always increasing the size of their book budgets. And so you are able to fill that gap because you've got such a wonderful children's library section and such a wonderful young adult library section, plus your reference section. So I'm sure that the after-school hours are full of kids coming in to do homework and doing research projects. Is that
Very much, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And actually we started, I'm so excited, outreach to the school. It's surprising how many parents don't ever bring their children to the library. And maybe they don't live close enough or whatever, but we wanted to expose the children to that. And we go every other week now. We have met with Lori Sardo, yes, and who's more than willing to cooperate. And Zen, everybody knows Zen, and who goes to the library. Zen is our biggest reader, and she knows every book, and people say, she picks out better books for me than I do.
That's great.
So she goes over there every other week, and she's part of the manga honorary member. And the kids come in, she goes during their study halls, and they listen to her. Some teachers bring their classes. She does a magic thing where she says, you tell me the last 3 books you read and I'll find you a book you'll love. And
Wow.
And the kids, that goes over
great.
really well. So we're doing that, and then she sits with Lori, and they go over Lori's order, and she says, Lori, we have all those books, those particular books that you're ordering. You don't need to.
So you're able to match up your collection with their collection and not have overlaps, which makes
Exactly.
everybody's book budget go further.
Absolutely.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then what we want to in the future, we're very near future, we do run some of those books over so the kids get them right away if we have them, or if we get them on interlibrary loan. But we would really like to have that a daily thing in many ways if we could establish that. So the kids, we can do that particular part. And I remember when we worked on another project on it with the PTA, some of them offered that they would come and
Actually
help.
do that, yes.
They would come and help run these books over. So I'd love to see this real working get together with the school where it really benefits them and us.
Well, and it's a great way to share resources and to enhance both and save money at both ends because of not having to duplicate. Let's talk a little bit, Chip and Carol, about the library board. How is it organized? What is the term of service? How many members do you have? Let's let folks know a little bit about how that board works.
Well, sure. It's a traditional board. We have a president, we have vice president, secretary, fiscal officer. There's 9 of us on the board. You're elected by the public to a 3-year term. At one point, I thought I could never get off, but after 9 years, you have to retire.
So there is a statute of limitations.
That's right, and I have reached that.
But only for a year.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
so you can take a little rest and come back
That's
if
right,
you
exactly.
want to.
We're it's a very diverse group, lots of different opinions. They bring lots of ideas and thoughts to the library, and it's been a fun group to work with.
Yeah, I'm sure it has been. And again, it's one of those things it's your passion. So of
Absolutely.
course
Yes.
it's more fun than it
Yes,
is work.
that's true.
So Carol, if somebody wanted to think about getting on the library board, what could they expect in terms of the amount of commitment and the time that they would need to devote to that kind of a job?
I think the time varies depending on what's going on, what projects you're focused on. We've got some standard kind of process things that we do every month at our only a 2-hour meeting, and we keep it as much as we can to that. And that's with the full board.
Right.
We approve financials, review expenditures. This is check the box kind of things that all boards have to be involved with. But it's not a burdensome situation. Where we sometimes have a little bit more time commitment and energy commitment is on the committees that we have. And we've got committees of usually 3 or 4 of us with Pat lending her hand and some other members of the staff, depending on what we're focused on. We have a financial committee. We have a human resources committee, which is important because it's a challenge keeping people obviously focused on and enjoying their work at the library. And in every organization, personnel issues come up.
Oh,
and
sure, yeah.
so the personnel, the HR committee. We've got a building committee, and it's really focused, again, because we don't invest a lot in improvement, but we want to keep what we have. And those folks work closely with the village, as Chip was saying. And so it varies, but it's by no means an onerous commitment. And you can, if you want to, you can take something up, get approval from your your colleagues on the board and Pat, and push projects forward yourself.
So there's definitely some opportunity there for creativity and to see a need and then find a way to meet that need.
I think there is. I mean, I think you get the spirit of what our library and our board focuses on by what Pat was was telling you just a minute ago about how her goal is to get daily contact with the Potsdam Central School environment and with the kids. And although we're not going to change staff will remain the same, she will find a way to do this. And that is the attitude, I think.
Well, I think we're very lucky that way. You heard her passion when she started to talk about ebooks. And it's because through Pat's leadership, the staff they're not afraid of change. They embrace change. What's new, what's different? How can we offer a continually better product to the patrons of the library?
Now, one thing you both can speak to, and this is the commercial opportunity here, but tell somebody what the rewards of board service are in terms of if someone came to you and said, I'd like to be a board member, and give them a little pep talk about what they could get out of board service personally.
Well, I think I think we all would share some of those rewards and probably have our individual rewards. I'm one of those people who read exactly what I wanted to do, to read, and never read what I was supposed to read from the age of about 6. And so books are a passionate love for me, and my husband and I both have been involved in the libraries in the various places that we have lived intensely, and brought our kids up to participate. I love books. I love books, and to be closer to the library, it really is a natural extension. At the same time, we all have, everybody on the board has a professional career that they either had or currently have. I was in business for about 35 years, mostly in the software business, but I was focused on financial systems and on developing both accounting and banking solutions, as well as being an accountant myself for about 10 or 12 years prior to that. So, so I've got a pretty strong finance background, and I love to help. I love to participate, and I think we all have directions from our years of service in various parts of our lives, and we want to see if we can help. We love the library. That's what we share.
Yes. Well, there you go. Chip, we have a couple of minutes left here. Why don't you tell us something about the public library that would surprise people, that they maybe don't know that it's a resource that you have, or that it's a service that you could provide that isn't obvious when you walk in the door to pick up a book. What does the library do that maybe is a little bit more hidden?
We talked a little bit about how it's not a shush library, that you can go and you can experience books, you can experience a number of things. But probably the newest and biggest change would be the computer center, the Potsdam Computing Center. What it has brought to our community, and that's really why I'm engaged in the library, is that it's a community center. It's significantly more, I want to be careful when I say just books, but it is books and more. And the Computing Center is a wonderful example of how the library found a way through a significant grant, and then finding the right staff people to offer services that didn't exist within the community, and do it at a kind of what I'll call a rate or a price that is remarkable.
Remarkable.
Yeah, and I'm always seeing advertisements in North Country this week or the Courier about we're having another set of classes on this, that, or the other. I think Introduction to the Internet is the one I saw most recently, so it's a great opportunity. And then there's the little things like the large print book service for people who have visual handicaps. You still do the bookmobiles to the senior centers,
to the senior citizens,
like
absolutely.
That. I mean, for anybody who is physically challenged or trapped by bad weather, that is such a godsend to be able to have you go to them rather than to have them struggle to get into you. So that's great. Pat, the library has been in existence for parts of 3 centuries now, since 1896. That's 118 years of service to our community. We've seen a lot of changes, obviously, over that time. What do you see as something that's going to be happening next in the 21st century? What's your next vision for the library?
Well, the growth of digital books is here. I know I love books too. I love to feel them, but they're growing. But the good news is they're reading more. More books are available. Reading is not dying out. Books are not. The format is changing. And you can also try to bring some of that technology into your groups that meet, or like my book group. I bring technology there. We love to see the interview with the author. That kind of, and we went from 8 to 22 people.
When you started being able to do that.
So, yeah, so you bring the right technology in with it and combine it, and it's the meeting room that's great, that everybody gets together. You can form groups. Some people want to do an environmental thing. We provide all that.
One thing I think that we will be focused on in the months coming up is getting the word out even more about the public computing center. We're talking about public. We mean public. And if you come in, generally speaking, with very few exceptions, for no cost on your part, you can get Basic Computer Skills 101. You can get one-on-one tutoring.
And Paige is here to tell us that
our time is up. Thank you. These conversations are a production of North Country Matters, produced here in the studios of WCCN on the campus of Clarkston University. This show is a civic collaboration between the St. Lawrence branch of the American Association of University Women, the County League of Women Voters, and the Communications and Media Department of Clarkson University. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters.